Merci pour vos questions. Jeff, it's up to you now.
Oh God. Now I'm going to spoil it for everybody.
Alors, notre traducteur est arrivé, donc Rachid Trabelsi, qui joue dans tous les groupes du 91. On peut le dire. Vous le retrouverez demain avec Witches. Voilà. Dans quelle édition, ça ira plus vite, dans quelle édition tu n'as pas joué?
Je crois que j'ai joué 8 fois en tout.
Ah ben voilà.
On va le dire comme ça.
Donc Rachid traduira pour Jeff. Jeff, Rachid is ready, I think.
Right, going to translate. Who speaks English in here to start off with?
Thank
well,
you.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Right. Feel free to ask questions, right? Because I'll tell you something now. I'm not one of these whiz-o kid guitarists, right? I've always said that if someone was to offer me one of two gifts in either hand and said you can either be the greatest guitarist that the world has ever seen or the greatest songwriter, I would take the songwriter every single time, because it's songs that move people emotionally, physically. It's a song which will take you back to a memory that you had. Every time I hear Jump by Van Halen, I'm on the German Autobahn traveling to a Himmerleinhalle in 1984. And music has that power over the human animal, and it's our last universal language. I understood a little bit of what was said today here, because when I was, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12-year-old, I was quite fluent in French. I took French at school, but you know, if you don't use it all these years, you forget it. So, but music, you know, we can be standing at a festival beside two people that you cannot communicate with at all, but as soon as your favorite song comes on, you're singing the words. And that was very prevalent when I played in Beijing in China, and we played Countess Bathory, and to hear a Chinese audience singing Countess Bathory was absolutely incredible. It's sung all over the world. You know, it's been sung in Japan, all over Europe, all over America, South America. Everybody sings the chorus to that song. And to think that that song was born one day when I walked into Neat Records, into Impulse Studios, and our brother, our manager's brother, who was around about 17 at the time, was sitting on Abaddon's drum kit, and he was playing a double bass drum pattern. He was going ticka 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 ticka. So I sort of motioned to say hello, and I plugged my guitar in, and I had this riff, and I had this idea, and I played it. He kept playing it. Countess Bathory was born. It was as simple as that. Now, I suppose everybody knows the genre black metal by now, right? Okay, and you know, Venom had the song black metal. We've got the album called Black Metal. I wrote black metal. Kronos wrote 2 verses. I wrote the last verse, the lyric-wise, but all the music is mine. Now here's the thing. I'm going to divulge a secret to everybody here. Excuse me for saying this. You know, in the morning when you get up, you have your first cup of coffee. Maybe if you're a smoker, you have a cigarette or you have a cup of tea or whatever, and then you go to the toilet to do the day's work. Okay? Right? Now, some people will take a magazine or something in, or the newspaper, and they'll say, this particular day, no word of a lie, hand on my broken heart, I took my guitar in. And the riff for black metal.
Just maybe, can we take a little pause? You have 2 kids in front of you,
yeah.
And maybe Rachid could translate for them.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because it's the new generation.
Yeah, go on. I'll grab the guitar in the meantime. So yeah, I mean, my sort of musical growing up, if you like, was... Oh, does he? Oh, right, okay, well, he could do this. Yeah, my musical growing up, I suppose, was in the 70s, in the glam rock era. And first favourite bands, I suppose, were T-Rex, Mark Bolan, Slade, Sweet, all that kind of stuff. And it was always bands that I saw that involved guitars. I was fascinated by guitar from an early age. There was two massive events in my life. Both occurred at Newcastle City Hall. The first one was in 1976 when I went to see a taekwondo demonstration there, and I was a lifelong practitioner of martial arts after that. The second event was 1979 when I went to Newcastle City Hall to see a band called Judas Priest. It was the Killing Machine tour. It was May the 24th, I believe. It was a Thursday evening, I can still remember it. And this guy, KK Downing, is the one that did it. Everybody in their life has a moment, and that moment defines what you want to do. It's up to you if you recognize that moment. And I recognized two moments, and both happened at Newcastle City Hall. One was for the martial arts. I ended up becoming a professional martial arts instructor with my own dojo in Newcastle City Centre. And the other, obviously, was the music. Now, when this guy ran on stage, as I'm looking at the stage, he ran on stage left. Leather, blonde hair, flying V. Guess who copied that? Yeah. I've got no shame in saying that I modelled myself on that guy. Once I seen him run on stage, it was like, I want to do that. I already had an interest in guitar, and I had sort of dabbled a little bit with these little acoustic things. But as soon as I seen him, it was that was the moment. And since then, I've never met KK, but I've had several telephone conversations with him. The first telephone conversation I had with him, I said straight away, I says, okay, I'm going to get all the fanboy stuff out of the way straight away. I'm going to tell you, what's happened. So I told him about Newcastle City Hall, 1979, blah, blah, blah. And then I made a joke, and I says, well, so there you go. The whole genre of black metal is your fault, So, but he said to me at that point, his moment was Jimi Hendrix. He went to see Jimi Hendrix, and he stood there and watched it and went, I've got to do that. Now, if Jimi Hendrix was alive, you would ask Jimi Hendrix, what was your moment? Everybody has that moment. You can take it all the way back. And even when it comes to the black metal thing, when we said, we were in an interview and we said, every band with long hair and a guitar, you're classing them as heavy metal. The new wave of British heavy metal was around at that point. And we said, and there was a copy of Kerrang on a coffee table in the room where we were being interviewed. And on the front cover was Bon Jovi. And we said to the interviewer, if this is what you call heavy metal, then we've got nothing in common with this, which we didn't. We didn't sing Living on a Prayer, we were totally the opposite, And, I will fully admit that at Neat Records, the catalogue of bands who were on Neat Records, we were the worst musicians. We saved our lives at that point. And the interviewer turned around and says, well, if you're not heavy metal, then what the hell are you? And that was it, we're black metal. And that's how it came. It was as simple as that. There was nothing calculated about it. There was no master plan. Everything just sort of fell into place. And I've always said with Venom, right place, right time. And songs at the end of the day. Because I was on tour and we stopped in Italy. And I went to a club to see a band, a new wave of British heavy metal band. And I love this band. Right? I'm not going to say who they are because I don't want to say too much about them. But they have one song from their catalogue from the 80s where the audience goes crazy. I went into this club and I watched this band and they had a great turnout and they had a great reception. But when they played that one song, the roof came off. Right? Unbelievable. For whatever reason, Venom has a bag full of those songs. I've seen grown men at the front of the stage, I'm 64, they're probably a little bit younger than me, been with us since day one, since the start of Venom. I've seen people crying at the front of the stage. And to have that effect on people with your music, when I've always said as well that the first album, Welcome to Hell, is predominantly all my writing, music and lyrics. Kronos has one full song on that album, which is Sons of Satan. The rest of it is all mine. That was my first attempt at writing songs. prior to that album, I had never wrote a song in my life. Never done one thing. I wrote In League with Satan, and then I wrote Live Like an Angel, Die Like a Devil, and then we were going into the studio to do some more demos, and the guy, David Wood, who owned Impulse Studios and Neat Records at the time, he said, have you guys got enough material for an album? And in reality, we didn't, but we said yes. So he said, right, get upstairs into the studio, you've got 3 days to make an album. And Welcome to Hell was recorded. Some of the writing was finished off in the studio. It was mixed and it was sent to the mastering plant within 3 days. And look at the effect that it had. But you know, like I say, I've always said that Venom was right place, right time. The world was ready for something different and we came along. It could have been anybody. Would Venom work now if we came out as a new band? Absolutely not. But would extreme metal exist? That's the other thing that I've always said. And you know, there's always this debate, you know, did Venom, you know, create black metal? Did they, you know, are they the originator as well? There's an album there, there's a song there. It's like, you know, what more proof do you want? But black metal has evolved all the way along. I mean, we're now, what, 45 years into it. And next year is the 45th anniversary of Venom, and myself and Abaddon are going out there and we're going to be celebrating with some big shows. But the one thing I'm proud of is that black metal is still around today. Regardless of what it's turned into, we did to our heroes what those bands did to us. We looked at Black Sabbath, we said, we can be more satanic than them. We can wear more leather and more studs than Judas Priest. We want a bigger stage show than Kiss, and we're going to be faster and dirtier than Motorhead. And that was our premise. That was the only thought we had in our mind. These bands that followed us, and I have to admit, I have never heard any of them. If you played a Bathory song to me now, I would not know what the hell it is. If you said, right, who's this? I would listen to it and go, sounds like a black metal band, but I have no idea. And the reason is, I never listened to any of that because I didn't want any of that influence creeping backwards into my songwriting. I had my influences. I had my Judas Priests, my Kiss, my Motorheads, and stuff like that. But like I say, it's evolved. And the good thing is, without evolution comes extinction. So if those bands hadn't followed us, black metal would probably be dead and buried by now. So I'm proud to say that it still exists. And in my personal opinion, it's not everybody's opinion, but my personal opinion is there's 2 bands out there right now who represent the pinnacle of black metal. And I'm not talking about all this underground stuff where, you know, you live in a forest and, you know, cook rats and stuff like that and burn churches down. That's all by the by. But 2 bands that represent like the black metal scene now is Behemoth and Dimmu Borgir. Those 2 bands for me represent what black metal has become. And on that scale, I'm very proud to say, you know, they're doing the business. They're doing really well. I'm good friends with Nurgle. You know, he's a lovely guy. He's a really, really nice guy. But even Nurgle, he's got his side project. He's got Me and That Man. And the first time I heard that, I was like, what the hell? And then he contacted me and asked me to do a solo for him on the last Me and That Man album. And I did, and it turned out to be, it's a great blues track. Blaze Bayley sings it, Gary Holt takes a solo, I take the opening solo, and you know, every musician I think has got these other ideas in their head. I would go crazy if I didn't get all the ideas out of my head. At the minute I've got 4 projects on the go. I'm re-recording a lot of the Venom stuff. I've got the song that you'll hear on the CD, Losing My Faith, which is more sort of rock, metal type of thing. I do a Patreon platform, and with the people who subscribe to Patreon, we're writing songs together, and it's become quite industrial, which is really good. I really like it. I've never explored it. There's only 2 industrial bands I'm familiar with. I've never explored the genre, but that's MENNECY and Rammstein. I love both of those bands, but I've never actually written anything myself like that. But it evolved into that, so we're on to our 2nd song now. It's just me and the guys who are on the platform. And there's another project that I've got with a Portuguese female singer who is absolutely incredible. And that's more in the rock vein as well. Her voice is unbelievable. But you know, I've always said my path has always been heavy metal. So the road that I travel is heavy metal. But
excuse me, can we have the name of the Portuguese female singer?
Daniela Galvin.
Okay.
But you know, when you're driving down the motorway, there's a slip road off here, there's a slip road off there, there's a road off there, there's a road off there, and it's the same with music. You know, music is a huge menu. Now, if you went into a restaurant and all they had was steak, or all they had was fish, it's like, well, you know, you've got 16 pages of fish. Right, great. Fucking hell, I hate fish. Right? But you can always go off down a road down here. My other big love is the blues, you know, and a lot of Venom stuff, right? A lot of the Venom stuff, the early stuff was written in A, right? Simple as that, right? And one of my big favourites was Status Quo at the time. So that's all sort of 12-bar blues, you know, so you get the blues progressions and the rock and roll progressions were all I had when I first started writing songs. Right? I learned a movable power chord. I learned that, and I learned the first position of the pentatonic scale. And that was it, right? That was all I had in my musical toolbox when I opened it to write my first songs. That was it, nothing. Those two things I learned from a book called Improvising Rock Guitar. It was a soft cover book, it had a flexi disc inside of it, and on one side there was two full instrumentals, one called Homage to Hendrix and one called Snaker. On the other side was the backing tracks, and you were supposed to learn the solos. I drove my parents crazy trying to learn these solos, right? But what I did learn out of it was that. Power chord and the pentatonic. Those two things then became every Venom song. It's as simple as that. Now, if you go into your workshop and you open your toolbox and all you've got is a hammer and a screwdriver, then you better be bloody good with those two implements, right? And it's what I've said all along, and this goes particularly for musicians and songwriting. It's not what you've got, it's how you use it, right? So if you are just armed with that, use it to the best of your ability. Now, I bought an album years and years ago called Overkill by Motorhead. Now, Venom used to play No Class. Which is basically Tush by ZZ Top, everybody knows that, right? But we used to play that song, and we used to play God of Thunder, we used to play that, and was it there? Yes, since I played that, Green Man Alishi, which, you know, everybody knows Priest did it, but it's actually a Peter Green song from Fleetwood Mac. But the Motorhead album, I've been writing a book for a long time now. I got asked to write a book about Venom. And it's been ongoing for years now. But in one of the chapters, I went through and analysed the songs. Because there's a lot of people who will pull these songs apart and say, oh yes, he's doing this because of this, he's doing this because of this. Bullshit. You're doing it because that's all you know how to do, right? Back in the day with the Venom songs, there was no Pro Tools, there was no Cubase, there was no Logic, there was no computers. It was all 24-track tape, analog. And we recorded Welcome to Hell on a second-hand 24-track tape. Right? We were actually recording over somebody else's recording. Right? That's the absolute truth. But what I did get from writing this thing is I discovered that Fast Steady Clock in Motorhead had a lot more to do with my songwriting and rhythm playing than I realised. I think it just subconsciously I went in. And playing those two things there, they're called, I discovered, they're called double stops, right? Which is basically, it's a power chord. So if we play it in the power chord fashion, it's that, right? With a power chord, you're using the root note, the fifth, and the octave. Right? With a double stop, just the fifth and the octave. And there are hundreds of Venom songs in that position, like that. Okay? Welcome to hell. Die Hard. Right? Live Like an Angel. Right? Leave Me in Hell. All double stops. And even on the album Ave, which I wrote in its entirety again, there's a track called Evil Dead, which is all double stops, right? So like I say, that little tool there just became a staple for what I was doing songwriting-wise. And like I've said, solo-wise, it's always been pentatonic, and I've always followed pentatonic players. My favourite guitar player of all time, if someone said, you can just listen to one guitarist for the rest of your life, it would be Gary Moore, without a shadow of a doubt. Right? The man, you know, bless him, he's phenomenal, you know. He's one of those guitarists that can tear your face off with a run. Just listen to the run out in the fields. That run he does from here up to there, and then the melodic bit that he finishes off with. But he's also another guitarist like Dave Gilmour, who can send shivers up your back with one note. He's incredible, you know, he's unbelievable. The other pentatonic player that I absolutely love, and far more aggressive and modern, I suppose, is Zakk Wylde. I love his playing. And then if we go even further back, somebody that I discovered just by getting a live album is Frank Marino. Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush. If you've never heard Frank Marino, listen to Frank Marino. Trust me, the guy is unbelievable. Sadly retired now, but all of those players, and if someone said to me, right, we'll combine 3 guitar players and that's your skill, it would be Gary Moore, Frank Marino and Zakk Wylde. All pentatonic players. I'm not saying that this is bad, it's not, because some of when you watch some of these players, the technical ability is off the charts, it's unbelievable. The likes of Yngwie Malmsteen and people like that, it's incredible what they do. But they'll never be able to walk to the front of the stage and go, I've seen that on TV where Angus Young walked to the front of the stage in Brazil somewhere, and there must have been 200,000 people in front of him. He played those 3 chords and the place went crazy. Like, not a sweeping arpeggio in sight. You know? And it's always proven to me that, you know, if you're a guitarist, then yes, you know, you want to get as good as you possibly can. But at the end of the day, if you want to make a career out of it, it's down to the songs. You know, that's the whole thing. You can be the fastest player in the world. I saw a Brazilian guy once on YouTube playing Flight of the Bumblebee at like, I don't know, it was like 300 BPM or something. I was like, yeah, very impressive, very technical and clean and very good, but can you write a song? You know, and you know, it's that. I've got nothing against these people. There's 12-year-old kids on YouTube who would smoke me on the guitar. It's like, you know, you see some of these kids and they're like, oh, wow, unbelievable, you know. But it's, for me, this is a tool, you know. Now, I can either stand there and play at 1,000,000 miles an hour all day, or I can go in the studio all day and come out with a song that a Chinese audience is going to sing back to me. And I would much rather do that. Yeah? So that's always been my advice to young guitarists. It's like, yes, when you're young, you want to be fast, you want to be flashy, you want to do all the tapping, you want to do all this, but you don't need to be a virtuoso to write a good song. Look at Angus Young, monumental classics that man has wrote. He's a blues player at best. Look at Paul Stanley, amazing rhythm player. He is a very good rhythm player. Is he a guitarist in the class of Yngwie Malmsteen? No. Has he wrote some of the biggest rock anthems on the planet? Yes. So all that comes into play. For me, I can think of one guy off the top of my head who had it in both buckets, let's put it that way. The virtuoso playing and the good commercial songs that everybody loves with the great solos in them. Eddie Van Halen. Yes. It's got to be Eddie, you can't deny his talent on the guitar. I mean, the first time when Van Halen 1 came out, I bought it on its day of release. I was lucky enough to see Van Halen in their original lineup on their first headline tour. And when I put that album on and I played Eruption, honestly, I looked at my guitar and went, it's like totally out of reach. Then, if you fast forward 20 years, I was doing a thing in Newcastle called Rock School, where we were teaching young kids and getting them off the street and stuff like that, putting them into little bands, giving them a 3-month course and then a gig at the local O2 Academy. Every 10-year-old kid was playing Eruption in that class. They're all doing it. And I was like, I still can't play it. It's like, but I've always said, I haven't got the patience to sit down and play like that all day. I haven't got the patience to learn all these modes and scales and everything like that. I've been in a studio with engineers where they've looked and went, what the hell are you playing? And I was like, well, it's this. And they're like, that's not right. It's like, no, but it sounds cool, And it's, one of the biggest riffs in the world. Basic is that, but my God, what a riff. And I didn't even know what that was. The flattened fifth, the devil's note, I had no clue. I've seen things on the internet and in the press with engineers who work with us saying, oh yeah, I introduced Venom to the flattened fifth, in the early days. Listen to Welcome to Hell, there isn't a flattened fifth in sight, because we didn't know what one was. The truth, we didn't even have a tuner. We didn't know what we were tuned to. We were tuning by ear, right? And we actually had the single, Illegal Satan, and Live Like an Angel, Die Like a Devil. We put that on, and we went, yeah, that's about right. We tuned to the single, and that was it. That's how chaotic the early days of Venom were. But it was, it was all moments captured in time. And I'm re-recording a lot of the Venom stuff now with me singing on it and stuff like that, because I've never sort of paid tribute to myself, if you like. And just through the Patreon thing, I started recording some stuff and doing videos for it. It's all up on my Facebook page, and you can see it all there. And then I got asked, oh, is this going to be an album? And I said, well, yeah, why not? Kronos did a tribute album to Venom in the 90s, and Abaddon did a couple, so I thought, well, yeah, I'm the founder of the band, I wrote those songs, so why not? So I'm going to put it out next year for the celebration of 45 years of Welcome to Hell. But yeah, I mean, like I say, with the guitar, music theory-wise, for me, very, very limited. And that's why I enjoy talking to people about guitar more than just sitting there doing this. I feel much more comfortable being on stage with an audience in front of me and playing to them rather than sitting, you know, being scrutinised and, you know, people watching you play, and it's like, it's more nerve-wracking for me to do this. If we were in a situation where you had all come in to learn martial arts, I'd be quite happy, because I know far more about that than I do about playing guitar, to be perfectly honest. And years and years and years ago, I think it was just after black metal, we used to frequent a music store in Newcastle, and it was run by a father and son. And we used to get a lot of stuff from there. And the father was a piano teacher, and he also taught music theory in the shop. They had a back room with all the keyboards and things like that. I was in one Saturday afternoon, and the father came through, and I was like, "Oh, can I have a word?" And he was like, yeah, what do you want?" I said, "Can I get some music theory lessons off you?" He was like, "Why?" I said, "To learn more about the instrument." He went, "I'm not going to teach you." I was like, "Well, why not?" He says, "You've got 2 albums out now which are very successful. You're going away and touring." He says, "I'll tell you what music theory will do to you." He says, "It'll just cloud everything. And you'll be playing things and going, well, I shouldn't do that because it's not in the book. It's not mathematically correct." And that's the thing. The rules are made to be broken. You know, I've done some stuff where I've done these little 3-note sweeping arpeggios. I mean, the sound isn't sort of coherent to this, so I might make a complete hash of this because there's not much gain on it. But there's those little things. Those little things, right? But I started doing those, and I couldn't tell you what it is. I have no clue what it is. I know it's a 3-note, it's a 3-string arpeggio. It's that. I know the pentatonic scale. I also play in different positions. But if somebody says, "I love what you're doing there," even on Losing My Faith on the CD, the solo comes out of the pentatonic scale, goes into something else, which was a happy accident. I thought, well, that sounds pretty cool. So, and I couldn't tell you what it is. There is footage of Dave Mustaine, and he did a DVD for, I believe it was a magazine called Guitar World, or it might have been somebody else. And he was sitting playing Megadeth songs. And then he showed the solo to one of the songs. And then he rolled the volume off and he says, "If anybody can tell me what I've just done, then please write in, because I haven't." Yeah. And when I was doing rock school, they were trying to introduce proper music teachers in, you know. So I said to the kids one day, all the kids were sitting just like you are there, and I said, "Right, if you've got the choice, you're into rock music, you're into metal, you want to be in a rock band, blah, 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 right, here's your choice. Mr. Jones from the local high school, who knows everything about music theory and everything like that, and plays guitar in his local pub band, is going to come down and he's going to teach you and put you all through your grades, right? Or I'll call James Hetfield and he'll come down and teach you some songs." Guess who they wanted? Yeah, so the theory doesn't matter squat. It really doesn't. You would be surprised at the amount of successful metal musicians who have no clue what they play. But you guys love their music. And you can ask them, "Well, what's that you're doing?" I've not a clue. You know, but they'll go on stage night after night after night and they'll tear the place apart with it. You know? So, like I say, for me, it's a tool. It's there to be enjoyed, and this thing I mean, this isn't even my guitar, it's just being borrowed for the day, but it's a beautiful Gibson Les Paul, and I think I'll probably steal it and take it. But this instrument is, you know, you can just do so much with this thing. It doesn't, you know, even to the point of having some insanely heavy riff and then putting melodic vocals over it, and then that makes it more accessible to the general public, if you like. Or you can have some moderately heavy thing and then have Glenn Benton all over it, you know? It's like, that changes it. The thing that changes songs is the vocals, definitely. And the most important thing about a song is the vocals. All right? And I've always said as well, you know, people give Nickelback a hard time. They really do, yeah? And I've seen Nickelback live, and they were amazing. They were superb. Absolutely brilliant. My girlfriend's a huge Nickelback fan, and she's a huge fan of a band called Daughtry. Daughtry was supporting Nickelback this night. It was her birthday, so I said, yep, we'll go. But the Nickelback thing, you know, if you've got your average, and I'm talking your average music fan, right? Not metalhead or anything like that, your average music fan is driving down the motorway, and Yngwie Malmsteen comes on, and he's sweet picking all over the place, and they're, fuck's right? Start flipping the channels, and then all of a sudden they get to, look at this photograph, every time I do it, make, oh, and then they're singing along to it, right? Right, now, listen to some of the Nickelback albums. Listen to a song called Side of a Bullet, right? They've got some insanely heavy stuff on their albums, where all these, what we call in America, soccer moms, you know, who love Nickelback and they sing along to them, right? Yeah, put the deep cuts on, they will shit themselves, right? It's some of it's scary stuff, right? They've got some really heavy material, you know, when they did that tribute to Dimebag, they've got some heavy stuff. But what is insanely good about them is Chad Kroger's storytelling in the lyrics. He's an incredible lyricist. He really is. He's really, really good. And that's one thing that I think you could say about Venom. I wouldn't say we're incredible lyricists, but we told stories rather than, you know, preaching Satanism and all this. Do you know what it is? I have no religious affiliation, north, south, east or west. I do not care about it. It causes more problems in this world than anything else. And 7 years ago, I died. I was clinically dead for 5 minutes, and there is nothing. That's why I wrote the song, There's Only Black. Right? So the lyrics for Venom, yeah, I got the question, were you out to shock people? Absolutely, yeah. And if they ran away screaming, great. If they loved it, great. We wanted a reaction. And there was no middle ground with Venom. People loved Venom, or people hated us. You know, and that was great for us. But like I say, that's what myself and Kronos, I think we became more storytellers, and I like songs like Seven Gates of Hell. When I wrote that song, I always had Ronnie James Dio in mind for that song. You know, because the lyrics are all that's kind of associated with him with all this sword and sorcery stuff, you know, in a dream or a nightmare where love gives way to hate, the quest begins for the keys to the seven gates. I could just imagine him standing there in his flow and stuff and, you know, singing that song. And then obviously Kronos sung it. So, but I think that's what we had. And I mean, Kronos came into his own as well as a lyric writer. I mean, when I brought the music for the track Nightmare in, and it wasn't called Nightmare at that point, but he put the lyrics to it. The lyrics are fantastic. And even a song like Manitou, which was radically different for us, where the original riff was the riff for Possessed, but it became Manitou, and he wrote the lyrics to that song, and again, incredible lyrics. So you know, everybody contributed to what became Venom. I think in the early days, like I've said, all I had was those blues and rock and roll progressions and riffs, and I was just writing stuff. I mean, you know, like stuff like Angel Dust is so basic. You know, that's rock and roll, and that part down there. My father was a drummer. And he was into the big band era, into like Glenn Miller and all the swing era. And when you listen to those bands, when they've got the horn sections, you always get the you know, you've got those accents. And I think subconsciously, because that music was always playing in our house, that kind of thing, it just crept in there. And there's a lot of that stuff that happens within the Venom songs. However, when you put the three of us together, it just became chaos, you know, and that was it. I mean, when I wrote the song Teacher's Pet, we joked that we were the only band in the world that played 13 bars blues, because Abaddon couldn't count. It was as simple as that, you know. I mean, you know, the timekeeping wasn't great. But at the end of the day, none of us were experienced musicians. And I think if you had taken any of those Venom songs and given them to somebody like Raven, or the Tigers of Pantang, or Fist, it wouldn't have been the same. It would have been clinical, it would have been clean and squeaky and all played correctly, you know. Where with us, I wrote a song, I took it in, I went, I've got a new song, this is it. I remember going in on a Sunday morning to a rehearsal place, all excited, and the song that I took in, music and lyrics finished, all done, let's go, it was Witching Hour. And what we did to it was just became chaos. And that became, I suppose it became Venom's charm at the end of the day. And if anybody's got the album Welcome to Hell, right, put the needle at the beginning of the track, Welcome to Hell, and listen to a few bars. Take the needle off and put it to the end. Right? Now when you listen to the beginning of it, then just make a note of the time, right? Right? So when you put it to the end, yeah, it's absolutely true as I'm sitting here. Do it. You know, if you've got that album at the beginning, yeah, and at the end it's like, right? It's great. Abaddon was like a runaway train. You just couldn't contain him. It was like, you know. And yeah, we started playing songs too fast and things like that, you know, but like I say, it was all part of the chaos, you know, and people used to say, oh, it's very, very punk influenced. I would dispute that. I would just say that it was just general inexperience and not being very good at our instruments at that point, you know. And that's why I say, you know, would it work now? No. And you know, extreme metal probably wouldn't be around today if it wasn't for Venom. But nothing shocks anybody these days. I think the human race is desensitized because, come on, a heavy metal band wearing corpse paint or, you know, singing about the devil or whatever, or turn on the news channel. Watch what's happening in the world. And that, my friends, is happening on your doorstep. And that is more scary than the thought of anything with a little pointy tail and horns sticking out of its head. It's absolute bollocks. You know, and I've always said that on the last Venom Inc. album that I did, I wrote a song called Man as God, right? And I'll just finish off on this point. I wrote that song and it says Man as God. And that is because we are the gods. Hello. There you go. And that is because, that's all right, he's on my arm there. Ace is on my arm. No, that is because on this planet, man is the god. Man is the devil. It's as simple as that. Because we, as human animals, we're capable of the most benevolent love. We're capable of great creations. We're capable of healing each other. But we can also be the most despicable pieces of crap on this planet. Man is the god. Man is the devil. It's as simple as that. So singing about Satan and, you know, hell and all this kind of stuff, it's like, oh, give it a rest. And sometimes, you know, with all the genres as well, I mean, you know, Venom are responsible for all that, I suppose, you know, we're coming out and saying, oh, we're black metal, you know. But we also said, oh, power metal, speed metal, all this kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden all these genres are born. Sometimes, as an older musician, I just think, oh, let's hoist the flag of heavy metal and stand under it and salute, you know. We're all into our metal. And one thing that really made me despair one night was when I did this rock school thing, and I walked in, and all the little guitarists were sitting around, and they were all playing, and so I walked past them just to plug my guitar in and start teaching. And as I walked past, one of them turned to the other and said, "What kind of metal are you into?" I was like, oh my God, what kind of metal? It's like, we're all heavy metal fans at the end of the day. It's as simple as that, you know, and that's what I live by now. I'm just a metal fan. I'm a fan of music, I'm a fan of guitar. I've had the question, have you got any guilty pleasures, you know, when it comes to music? It's like, no, because good music's good music. I'm a huge fan of Brian Ferry, Roxy Music, Level 42, stuff like that. There was an 80s band called Go West who were phenomenal. They had a phenomenal guitar player, sadly since died. But any music which is good music. It's as simple as that. And all this gatekeeping about like, oh, don't listen to that kind of black metal. You need to listen to depressive black metal, or you need to listen to this kind of black metal. It's like, you need a punch in the face, pal. That's what you need. So let's just all enjoy the music. And like I say, I'll just finish off by saying, music is our last universal language. Please don't let it die. That's the only way we've got of communicating with each other without walls. Okay? And on that note, thank you very much for listening to me drivel on for ages, and I'll let you go. There you go. Right, can I have a coffee now? Hello.
Could I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Do you have any special remembering from your Ballard 1984 appearance?
From where?
Ballard, Paris, 1984.
Oh, God. Oh, Espace Ballard.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, the one thing I do remember is walking into that venue, right, and just going.
Hey, it was raining.
It wasn't a rain, it was the size of the place. I was like, because I was actually thinking, who the hell's playing here? I didn't realise it was us that was playing there. You know, it was like, wow, this place is huge. You know, and then on the night time, I mean, the place was full. It was incredible, and it was the same with when we played in Milan at Teatro Tenda. That was massive as well. But yeah, I mean that was my first experience of a French show. Yeah, and it was absolutely incredible. Yeah. So yeah, and I remember Danny at Envois magazine. Yeah, and then I haven't seen Danny for years and years and years. I don't know what he's doing or anything.
Still exists.
But yeah, it was a big. Does the venue still exist? No, it's not there anymore. No.
The place has been replaced by a real venue.
All right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, it was. I've got good memories from there. Good memories. I can remember that Danny was standing at side stage when we did the show, and I had one of these little Nintendo games, and I came in. The intro tape was going, and I came in, and I had all my stage clothes on, the leather and the studs and everything, you know. And I'm playing this little game, like, ladies and gentlemen, I paused it, folded it up, gave it to my roadie, he got my guitar on, I went on stage, did everything like that, came off stage, gave him my guitar, he gave me the Nintendo back and continued playing after the show. Danny was like, oh, this guy is crazy, but yeah, I was like, yeah. But no, it's happy memories of that, the whole tour, the 7 Days of Hell tour. I can remember the first show in Zurich, in Switzerland, where Metallica came running into our dressing room, and we had to hide them in our dressing room because they had smashed their dressing room up, and the promoter was looking for them, so they were all hiding behind us in the dressing room. But no, that was, I would say, practically the pinnacle of what Venom was at that point. You know, that tour, and then, you know, ending up at Hammersmith Odeon in London, you know, it was like being our first British show at Hammersmith Odeon. It was like, you know, and at that point in 1984, no bands had ever done that. You know, all the bands that we knew, they were still going up and down the country in the back of a van and playing all the little clubs and pubs and stuff, you know. I even spoke to Mark Gallagher from Raven, and he even said to me, he says, all the bands at Neat Records used to look at Venom and going, what? How the hell is that happening? Because all these other bands were very hard-working bands, and they were all very competent musicians. Mark's a great guitarist, Mark Gallagher from Raven, you know, and you know, there was a band there called Dead Ringer, and Dead Ringer should have went to America because you know they were the AOR rock of England. They had a singer called Sam Blewett who was unbelievable. He could have got a job with Journey or Foreigner or anybody, you know. But no, it was Venom, and like I said, it was, I think, right place, right time. You know, and I think the universe conspired and said, right, we need something. There's 3 Geordie idiots down there who don't know what the hell they're doing. That's the next big thing, and that's what happened. Yeah.
Hello, Jeff.
Hello.
Of course, I like everything you done with Venom, but you have also 2 solo albums.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little about them, because they are very different? What was your motivation at the time, and how did you manage to make a band to recruit the guys?
Right, yeah. Well, the first album, The Winds of Change thing, that was probably a sort of rebellion or a reaction against what I had been doing in Venom, because I left Venom, and the circumstances weren't good. It wasn't the circumstances of me leaving Venom in 1986 weren't anything to do with music or finance or anything like that. It was all to do with Kronos and what he did at a festival, which was a disgusting incident, and I vowed that was it. So I did leave, and then I thought that's it. I'm finished with bands, you know. I just had enough by this point. And then I got a phone call from David Wood at Neat Records, just asking what I was doing, how I was, and all this kind of. Oh, come down for a chat, you know, maybe do a solo. I had no thoughts of doing a solo album. But then he said about doing it, so I was like, right, okay. So I did the Winds of Change thing. And my thing is really, if we've got a white wall here, right? Now if we want to radically change this, we're not going to paint it white again, you know? It's going to be a different colour. And that's what I thought about the music. And I love 80s rock anyway, you know? So I went down that route, and I got some people involved with it. And I mean, when I went in to record it, there was nobody else apart from me. You know, I didn't have a vocalist. I had all the lyrics and everything. I didn't have a vocalist, didn't have a drummer, didn't have nothing. You know, but I went in, and myself and Keith Nichol, who worked on the Venom albums, we, you know, worked on the album together. And then he introduced me to the singer, Pete Harrison, who came down and did the stuff. There's only 2 live drum tracks on there, and that's Desperado and Hurricane, the 2 instrumentals. And that was a session drummer who came in and did those. And it was very well received, and we had an offer to go to Japan. And then we did MTV, we did the video, it was on MTV rotation, and then the call came to go back to Venom, and I refused at first. But that's how Al Barnes ended up in Venom, because Al had helped me during the recording of Winds of Change, and then obviously he appears in the video with me. So he was going to be the second guitarist in the band anyway, and I felt a little bit guilty about just saying, oh well, thanks guys, and I'm away. So I took Al into Venom. But the second album, Zero Tolerance, that was a very angry period of my life, very angry, and it was just, I just wanted out and out brutality as much as I could. And the drummer I actually had is now in Cradle of Filth, Martin Scarupa, MANTAS. He was the drummer for a while. And the other drummer that I had, she is now in Simple Minds. So, but that album was just born out of anger. Now there's a song on there called Kill It. And I had a lot of questions about it, like, oh, it's a really angry song, like, you know, so, and nobody knew what it was about. Nobody got it. Are you looking at me, or do you hate what you see? Does it scare you because I'm different and I'll always be free? I'll never conform, and you know, I'll never be tamed. The only thing going through your minuscule brain is kill it. guys who spend millions to go out and shoot a beautiful animal just for the sake of killing it. And that's kind of animal cruelty whatsoever. So that was all that. And you know, the zero tolerance period was, you know, we went to Japan, we went to Europe, we did quite a few things. And then there was a tour scheduled with 6 Feet Under, and the singer backed out, and then the bass player backed out because they didn't want to go on tour. So that became the end of that, and then it just sort of morphed into another band. I mean, then I had drill and all that stuff. Venom was always there in the background. It always has been. And it's one of those things, if you've been in a band as iconic as Venom, you'll never get away from it. You know, it's like this guy on my arm here, Ace Frehley. It doesn't matter what he does, he'll always be the guitarist in Kiss. You know? I mean, I love all the stuff he's doing now, all his solo stuff, but I'd rather see him play. You know? And it's the same product, you know? It seems to be, Venom seems to be one of those bands that has its chemical formula, and it works that way. And everybody wants that formula all the time. And unfortunately, the elements of that formula just tend to explode. So, I hope that answers your question.
Jack, could you play for us the fantastic solo of 7 Gates of Hell?
Oh God, I don't know if I can remember it.
If you remember.
I mean, last night was the first time I've been back on stage in 2 years, so taking that song into a rehearsal place and I'd come up with it. But yeah, I always thought of Ronnie James Dio, especially with the lyrics for that one, right? But there you go. Any more questions?
Can you wait 2 minutes, think, and create something? The new songs now?
Create a new song now!
like metal, but now a new one.
And now a new one? Oh my God!
Something you have never played before.
Just something I've never... Oh. God! Way to put someone on the spot.
It's already on YouTube.
Yeah, it probably is, yeah. Any more? Any more? Any more? Ask anything you want. Anything you want.
Question for guitar nerds.
I'll try.
Do you remember which gear you used to play in the early years of Venom, like on your first album, etc.?
Yep, exactly. It was a Marshall JCM 800.
All right.
Which was financed by my father.
Oh, okay.
It was a Marshall JCM 800 cab, also financed by my father. It was a CSL Flying V copy, yeah,
Okay.
with a DiMarzio Super Distortion in the bridge position,
Yeah.
and it was a CSL fuzz pedal.
Oh, you use the fuzz.
Yeah, big,
All right.
horrible blue fuzz pedal from the late 70s.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's what I used. And I had a Electro Harmonics small stone phaser.
Yeah.
And I think it was an Ibanez chorus pedal.
Okay.
And that was it. That was basically it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And I remember the pictures of you playing Ibanez on stage also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember when you started playing Ibanez, or?
I think the first Ibanez I got was when myself and Kronos got the Ibanez Destroyers when they first came out in the 80s. We both got a red Destroyer, and I wish I'd kept that guitar.
It's great.
It's a beautiful guitar. But I actually traded that red one in for the Phil Collin model with the 3 pickups, yeah. And I hated it.
Really?
Yeah. Oh no, it was
That's too bad.
no, I hated that guitar. I wish I'd kept the red one. Yeah, there's a friend, you know, Jim Clare, who replaced me when I left Venom. Well, I'm good friends with Jim. He's a really nice guy. He's got a red Destroyer from the 80s, and he keeps sending me pictures of it. And he's actually because he knows a lot about them. He's actually trying to find the one that I had to see if he can find it. But even my CSL Flying V, which I loved, I mean, it was only a copy. It was a copy guitar, but I loved that guitar, and that was stolen in America. Yeah, I've never saw that guitar. After 1985, I never saw that guitar again. Oh shit. Yeah, never saw it. But I had a few Ibanez. I had an Ibanez Roadstar.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, they were great guitars as well. Yeah, I had that. And the only Ibanez I've got now is, I think it's an RG, Ibanez RG. But now I'm endorsed by Comparison.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, they are beautiful. They're beautiful guitars. It's like, I mean, far, far out of my price range. Well, you know, when I found out the price of these things, I was like, yeah, but I mean, I love these.
Any guitar is great when you know what to play on it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I tell you what, have you explored any of the Harley Benton guitars?
Yes, I've got a few.
Yeah,
They're great.
they're incredible.
Yeah.
The last purchase I made was a 7-string. I thought, oh, I'm going to try a 7-string, and that's what I'm writing the industrial music with the patrons. And I mean, I've got a Les Paul. It's probably like a tobacco burst Les Paul. It's the SC550, and 240 euros. I was like, wow! It was the first Harley Benton I got. Then I got a Stratocaster. I've got 2 Telecasters. I've got an acoustic, and I got this 7-string. They're amazing. I mean, they're not in the caliber of the Comparisons,
Of course, but
for the price of them.
when you remember the
Crazy.
first price, you know, cheapest guitars we used to get in the 80s and 90s,
Yeah.
you see the progress, it's incredible.
Oh yeah, it is. It's absolutely unbelievable. You know, when this Les Paul arrived from Torment, I opened the box, you know, and I didn't know what to expect, to be perfect. I've watched all these YouTube videos and everything, but I didn't know what to expect. And I opened the box and I took it out, and I was like, this is actually really good.
Yes.
It was a good weight. Everything about it was incredible, you know. But the guitar I play the most and record with the most is the Comparison Angelus, and they're probably. They look like a PRS, and I don't really like PRS, but these guitars are, they look like a PRS, but they feel like a Gibson. Yeah, and I mean the latest one that they gave me, you know, and I wasn't going to take it. I was like, no, I can't take that. You know, like, no, you're a great ambassador for the brand. I mean, I've got 5 Comparisons now. But the latest one they gave me was like €5,500. I was like, wow, and you know, it's on a stand, and I'll just keep looking at it going, you know, anybody comes into my studio and say, whoa, stay away from that. Do not go anywhere near that. Yeah, I mean, the comparisons are, they're beautiful guitars. But as an entry-level instrument, anybody now who says to me, I'm thinking about starting, what should I get? I say, Harley Benton.
Of course, yeah.
Get a Harley Benton.
It's fantastic. Do you still use you still use amps, or do you go digital now?
For recording, I'm digital.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I'm using now is a combination of the Bogren software, the one knob software, and the Neural DSP.
Yeah.
Neural DSP is phenomenal.
Yes.
It's phenomenal. I've got two of those. I've got the Fortin Nameless and the Archetype Nolly. They're amazing. I mean, straight out of the box, you put them up, and even the default sound is like, it's a great rhythm sound. And I've used the default sound for a few things. Yeah, but I like that. I was using Amplitude 5 for a long time. But even with the Neural DSP, I think it's more authentic.
Yeah.
Even the Bogren stuff, they've just brought out a Marshall JCM simulator. It's called the Bad Boy. And that is the closest thing you will get to a Marshall amp. I guarantee it.
Okay.
It's incredible. For 49 euros, it's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And even their models of the 5150s are brilliant. Yeah, so I've got two models of the 5150. I've got the JCM 800. I've got another couple of things as well. But I like the controllability that you've got within the digital world with that. Sometimes it can sound a little bit harsh and a little bit cold, you know. But now with the IR technology, the impulse response technology, it's getting better and better and better. You can add air and movement that you get from a cab, you know, and it sounds great.
Lots of progresses have been made in like the last 10 years. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if everybody's aware, but I did a year's world tour as a session guitarist for the band Scooter, and I was using the Line 6 Pod XT Live, and I mean, that was just going straight into the PA system. There wasn't a cab or an amp on stage, and I mean, it was great, but it was, you know, it was digital.
Yes.
You know, you could tell it was digital. Then I went to the Boss GT10, but again, it had that digital harshness. It didn't have that warmth of what you would expect from a Marshall or something. And I've always been a Marshall guy. I've went through every amp on the planet, and I've always went back to Marshall. Always go back.
Yeah, great.